All right, our praise, glory, and honor is most certainly due to the Most High Elohim of the patriarchs Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I want to say peace to each and every one of you in the name of His Son, Yehoshua Mashiach, who we know as Jesus Christ. His Son is a blessing each and every single time that I can come before you to bring a message contained in His Word, and never do I count it a light thing to do so. All right, brothers and sisters. The title of today's lesson is, and it shall be called, "The Sons of God." And this lesson speaks to the ultimate potential of man. Just before we get into it, we should understand that when you say the sons of God, you have to qualify that statement or that phrase, that term. Simply like you have to qualify death, as far as second death, the first death. You got heaven, your first heaven, second heaven, third heaven. If you want to put numbers, we know it's the third heaven which is the heaven of heavens. Then you have where the sun and moon and the stars are, where the birds fly, and then you have earth referred to as heaven in the Bible. The word is spirit, breath of life is spirit, God is a spirit, the angels are spirit, your thoughts are spirit. So you have to qualify those things. Sons of God is something, that term you also have to qualify, because um, the angels could be referred to as the sons of God. When you are obeying God, that is, you are a type of son of God. And then you have, ultimately, when you have reached your full potential as a son of God, which is to be what He is. So let's pick it up in Genesis 1, because our potential is not to be angels, right? We're above angels in that regard, our potential. And so when He made man, let's see what He was making. This is Genesis 1 and verse 26. Genesis 1 and verse 26. It reads, "And God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness." Okay, so now, right off the bat, the question we should ask is, who is the our? It seems like God's singular, but it's more than one there. We should understand that there's a unity in the Godhead. Okay, it's unified. So that's why Jesus said, "I and my Father are one." So when you say Elohim, which is the word there, it is plural and sensitive. It could be more than one. And the us there is, He's not talking to angels, because we're not made in the image, the likeness of angels. We were made in the image and likeness of Elohim. And who was in the beginning? You had the Father and you had the Son. It tells us that in John 1. So God, the Father, made the worlds through His Son. So He says, let us, again, the Father talking to the Son, and the Son does it. Okay. So then it says, "And let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over all the cattle, and over the cattle, and over all the earth." Now, if you look at the fowl of the air and the cattle and the earth that comes up, the vegetation that comes out from the earth, one thing, when it was made, it said everything after its kind. Right? And then it says, over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. Again, everything after its kind. But then it says, so God created man in His own image. That same premise, everything after its kind. So we were made in the image and the likeness of God to be God. Okay? It says, so God created man in His own image, and the image of God created He him, male and female created He them. Right? So that's what we were made to be. Now, let's pick it up in Psalms, the 82nd division, because he tells you this. Psalms 82, and we'll pick it up at verse 1. It says, God stands in the congregation of the mighty, He judgeth among the gods. Okay, so who is this talking about? Are these false gods? No, this is talking about man. Okay, He says, how long will you judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? So He made you to be God, but what have you become? You become less than what He made you to be, because you're not operating how he had you to operate when He made you. Because He made you to be what He is. That's the actual potential of man. Man does not realize his potential. One of the most devastating and just heartening things is people don't realize their potential. And that happens on a lot of levels. You see it with children all the time. You're like, man, if you tell a child, man, if you only knew how smart you were, you are. Or if you have, like, you might have an athlete, you're like, man, he doesn't realize how good he actually is. A musician, oh man, he's awesome. It's just natural for him. He doesn't know it. But that's quite honestly, although those things are good, that's on a small scale, because the ultimate potential for man is to be what He made us to be, which is Elohim, a celestial, eternal being. Okay. And that comes now because of death coming into the world. That comes through the resurrection. But we'll also see in this lesson how you could see the hint of that, and that is the potential. We'll examine two men's lives, and it should become clear. But it says, God standeth in the congregation of the mighty; he judgeth among the gods. How long will he judge unjustly? How long will ye judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? So again, how long will you be unlike him? Right? See, man has become a fornicator, an idolater, an adulterer, a thief, effeminate, a murderer, a liar, backbiter. He didn't make you to be those things. He made you to be like him. That's why even when Christ came in the world, Christ gave us an example of what to follow. He said, I'm the light of the world, you be light. And you are the lights of the world. You are the light of the world. How could he be the light of the world and we the light of the world? Because he should be in us and we should be walking just in walking this earth just like he did, in the way in which we behave as a light in darkness. You understand that? So that's not a little thing. And what happened with Christ? Christ was the first begotten of the dead. That's why when he was resurrected, he told Mary to go tell my brother, and I go to my God and your God. So wait a minute. What does that mean? That means that's our brother. The Father, again, we are his offspring. That's what he made us to be. So when you're not reaching your potential, like he said, it repented me that I've made this man, I will destroy him from the face of the earth. And that's how destruction comes, because what are you good for nothing? If you have something and you went through all this trouble to make it, and then it's not what you made it to be, it's like, what's the point? You understand? So people don't realize their potential. They don't realize what they should be doing. They should be operating in righteousness. It said, defend the poor and fatherless, do justice to the afflicted and needy, deliver the poor and needy, rid them out of the hand of the wicked. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. Again, that's how they have chosen darkness rather than light. Okay, it says in one place, because their deeds were evil. They rejected the Father, and they rejected his Son who he sent. And that's why condemnation is coming. But nevertheless, he says they walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. It's just on my mind. It said, and this is condemnation, that light is coming to the world of men of darkness rather than light, because their deeds were evil. See, the light of Christ should be shining in you, and that ultimately, understand, Christ has paved our way to reach our potential. What was standing in the way when sin came into the world, death came into the world, and therefore you needed a sacrifice. You needed to make atonement for sin. He laid down his life so that you could have that opportunity to reach your potential, and you still don't do it. You don't realize, or you reject it. You do despite unto the Spirit of grace. It's a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. That's what you need to understand. But nevertheless, he said, I have said ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High. See, you are his offspring. He said you are gods, but he also said, but you shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. You won't reach your potential. Let's go to Genesis, the 5th chapter, because I said you would examine some lives of two individuals that will show you this, give you clues as to this potential of being God. It is Genesis, the 5th chapter, and I want to pick it up at verse 23, and it says in 24. Well, I pick it up at verse 23. It says, and all the days of Enoch were 365 years, and Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. Wait a minute. So now, what does that mean? That means Enoch did not see death. Let's verify that. Let's go to Hebrews. Because what he showed with Enoch what could have been. Hebrews, the 11th chapter and verse 5. It says, by faith, Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because God had translated him, for before his translation, he had this testimony that he pleased God. When he said he walked with God, basically he served God. He communed with God. He didn't eat of that wicked one, which is the option that everybody has. You can commune with Satan, or you can commune with the Lord, right? And when they commune with Satan, that opened the door for death and sin. It was sin in doing it, because he told them not to do it, not to eat of that tree, which was symbolic of communing with Satan. So when they did that, they opened the door for death and destruction, despair, all the things that come in this fallen state. But had they not done that, what would have happened? You would have walked with God and you would have went from being man to being God directly. You wouldn't have had to see death. How do you know this? Let's go to Exodus, the 34th chapter, and see the other man's life. Exodus 34. Exodus, the 34th chapter. Exodus, the 34th chapter. I want to pick it up at verse 29. Now, this is Moses. Notice what it says about Moses after he's communing with the Lord. Remember, Enoch, you read in Genesis, the 5th chapter, Enoch, he walked with God and was not, for God took him. He lived 365 years. He's walking with God, and then he doesn't see death, meaning he didn't die. So if he didn't die, what is he? Hopefully you can understand and come to the conclusion. Exodus, the 34th chapter, and verse 29, it says, "And it came to pass when Moses came down from Mount Sinai with the 2 tables of testimony in Moses' hand, when he came down from the mount, that Moses wist or knew not that the skin of his face shone while he talked with him." So what does that mean? He's starting to take it after communing with the Lord. He's in the mount with the Lord. He's in his presence. Well, in his presence is life and peace. In his presence, he, after coming from the mount, he had started taking the attributes of the Lord upon himself. So this shine is not a natural shine, it is a supernatural shine. That's why it says, and when verse 30, and when Aaron and all the children of Israel saw Moses, behold, the skin of his face shone, and they were afraid to come nigh him. They were afraid to come near him. Now, was this, it must have been some of that good olive oil that they had? Or he went to M&M and got some shea butter, or the beauty supply store, got that good, he's got a good skin routine. No, this is, he has a celestial glow, a shine, so much so that it is frightening because it is not natural. Then it says, "And Moses called unto them, Aaron and all the rulers of the congregation returned unto him, and Moses talked with him. And afterward, all the children of Israel came were near, and he gave them in commandment all that the Lord had spoken with him in Mount Sinai. Until Moses had done speaking with them, he put a veil on his face." That's how like they were uncomfortable with Moses and how he looked, because it'd be like if somebody has an unnatural glow and they're standing right next to you. You'd be like, wait a minute, you can't take that, because we are celestial earthly beings with the potential to be what he is. But because of sin, we deal in this corruption. So now understand, he was only up there for a short time. Consider if he had continued. See, and that's what we lost when we sinned, when in the Garden of Eden even. Let's go to Deuteronomy, the 34th chapter, just to show you this, because this is not just a shine. This speaks to him and him being less natural, if you will, because he had started to take on the attributes of God. This is Deuteronomy, the 34th chapter, and we know this because of this, or I know this because of this. Deuteronomy 34 and verse 5, it says, "So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab over against Beth Peor. But no man knoweth of his sepulchre unto this day. And Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eye was not dim, nor his natural force abated." So what does that mean? That means he didn't die in some sickness or some disease, or by means of an accident or murder. No, the Lord just took him out. He still had his strength. So that's something that you should consider concerning Moses, right? What does that mean? That means that, again, he had started taking upon those attributes from the Lord, and he wasn't weak. Okay. So that meant that the Lord had to take him out. So now, what does that have to do with us? Let's go to Romans. Because someone say, so what? Well, understand your potential. This is the potential man has, and showing what could have been and what is still possible, but we have to do it. You had to do it a different way, Yet, because of sin, death entered into the world. So death had to be defeated. See what Satan did was all about ruining your potential. And when you're following Satan, when you're dealing in sin, you are destroying your own potential. This is Romans, the 8th chapter, and verse 12. Romans 8 and 12 says, therefore, brethren, we are debtors not to the flesh, to live after the flesh. See, you have to be spiritually minded, right? You have to deal with the word, which is spirit, and understand that word, we are begotten by that word, and that's going to produce not just new character in you, but it is the word. We're begotten by that word so that we can be born again. That is the seed, so to speak, that we need to be begotten by. So he said, well, if you live after the flesh, ye shall die. But if through the spirit do mortify the deeds of the body, ye shall live. So we have to bring our body into subjection. For as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. Like I said in the intro, this is a type of son of God. He said he said, if you led by the Spirit of God. He said, for ye have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but ye have received the spirit of adoption. Adoption how? Adoption into the God family, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. Because you read in Revelation, in the book of Revelation, you read where he's going to, the last enemy is going to be destroyed is death, right? He said, y'all saw new heaven and new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth passed away, and there was no more sea. And he talked about how there will be no more sorrow, no more crying, neither shall there be any more pain, right? No more death, no more pain, for the former things are passed away. So if you no longer die, what does that mean? You're what he is. You're eternal. That's why I told you flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God. Why not? Because the kingdom is eternal. Therefore, if you want to inherit it, you must be eternal. It's not like an inheritance in the natural where you just pass it down. No. This is something for eternity. It said, for as many as are led by the Spirit of God, they are the sons of God. But ye have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but ye have received the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Our Father. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ. If so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. See, that's why I'm going to read something to you real quick. This is Psalms 17 chapter. Psalm 17 and verse 15. See the patriarchs, the prophets, people like David, who was a prophet also in addition to being a king, they knew this. This is Psalm 17 and verse 15. He said, as for me, I will behold thy face. He's talking about the Lord. In righteousness, I shall be satisfied when I awake with thy likeness. Awake from what? From death. And if you have his likeness, you are what he is. That's how you're going to wake from it. You're not going to wake and be another human being like you in a terrestrial form. You're going to wake with his life. You'll have a celestial body. And who showed you that? Who paved the way for that? Jesus Christ, the first fruits, stated of Christ at his coming. That's what the first fruits, the first fruit had to be accepted prior to Pentecost. That represented Christ. The Pentecost, that which was baking in leaven, if you read that narrative, or in that ordinance concerning the feast, that represents us. That's why when Mary Magdalene said she reached out to touch him, he said, touch me not, for I go to my Father. Afterward, he hadn't been accepted. He was resurrected. He hadn't been accepted. Once he's accepted, now he appears before his disciples. He like, handle me. What's the difference? Because he had been accepted. So he paved the way, again, for us to be resurrected. So now, he says in verse 18, because when you think about it, you're going to suffer some things in this world, right? You're going to go through some challenges, some trials and tribulations. And certainly, if you're going to call yourself a believer, as it is written, all that live godly in Christ Jesus shall suffer persecution. You're going to go through some things. But what is at the end of that? Because he even tell you, take up your cross and follow me. He said, give up your life if you want to gain eternal life. So wait a minute. What is it all about? It's about the reward. And the reward is where the potential is. You don't realize that. So you can squander it. If you don't understand what you're supposed to be doing, who he is, and your potential, you'll squander it. It's really too late in the game to be ignorant of what you can become. He said in verse 18, for I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. See, there's some glory. It said, for the earnest expectation of the creature waited for the manifestation of the sons of God. And that's what we're waiting on. That's what we're waiting on. For the creature was made subject to vanity, not willingly, but by reason of him who hath subjected the same in hope. Because the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. Okay, so he said, so that's what you'll be freed from the shackles of death. He said, for we know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth and pain together until now. It's in a fallen state, even until this very day. From the time of Adam and Eve, when they sinned, up until this very hour, it is in a fallen state. But the Lord has done the work for man to be delivered from that. It's only a matter of time. When he returns, you're gonna have the first resurrection. You're gonna have man who will be no more. They won't be flesh and blood. Then 1,000 years after that, you had a second resurrection. There will be no flesh and blood, period, at that time. During this millennial reign, during that millennial reign, you still have flesh and blood men. Okay? He says, because the creature itself also, he said, because of the creature itself also shall be delivered from the bondage of corruption into the glorious liberty of the children of God. We know that the whole creation groaneth and travaileth in pain together until now. And not only they, but ourselves also, which have the first fruits of the Spirit, even we ourselves groan within ourselves. Then it says, waiting for the adoption to wit, the redemption of our bodies. That's what we're waiting on. Last place, 1 John. This is a wonderful thing if you realize it. And it is a terrible thing if you don't realize your potential. You ever thought about in your life what you could have had? What you could have been? Sometimes who you could have been with? Man, if I just played my cards right. You need to get this right. 1 John 3:1. It says, behold, what manner of love the Father hath bestowed upon us, that we should be called the sons of God. See, that's love that we had an opportunity. He said, therefore, the world knoweth us not, because it knew him not. They rejected him. So certainly the world rejects us, believers. He said, beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. And he is God, he is a spirit, and you'll be just like him. And that is the potential of all man. So consider that. And when I say man, I mean mankind. So consider that on this walk. Consider your potential. And if you consider your potential, you'll understand you can't squander it through willful sin. We must walk upright. And with that, brothers and sisters, it's always my prayer that you will edify. Let me say this before. We are the Household of Faith. We meet every Sabbath at 5925 West 25th Avenue in Gary, Indiana at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. We live stream right here on the Israel Teach YouTube channel. That might be changing very soon. But stay tuned for that.